briefly talk about the agenda for today. I'm going to introduce today's topic by talking about the old way, the traditional way of agency marketing and sales. And then Alan's going to share with us a better way, leveraging prospect list generation, e-marketing, webinars, appointment setting, social media to help ensure the success of your sales force. And then we'll close with a Q&A. So without further ado, let's begin with the old way, the John Stanton story of insurance agency sales and marketing. I was hired by an agency, given a beautiful office with a new desk, a new phone, a computer. I was very excited and energized to go make some money and write some business. However, the marketing tools in place at my agency were very limited. I primarily drove my business via cold calling. My goal was to spend enough time on the phone each day to schedule 2 to 3 appointments each day. And when I went to those appointments on the way there, the way back, I would also canvass, if you will, by cold calling in person, stopping at other surrounding businesses. And over time, over the course of about a year, I developed a very robust pipeline. And during my second year as an agent, I was able to ascend into the top tier of producers at the agency. So I was very excited about that, proud of that. But a couple byproducts of that were that I spent most of my waking hours in the car. I drove over 30,000 miles a year every year that I was an agent. I also worked more than 60 hours a week for the most part because I had many meetings during the day, but in the evenings I would meet with families to review their financial services or call on municipalities or fire departments or whoever was available to meet with me. And as I thought about what I wanted to do in the future, having a family, etc., I realized that there might be a better way, and I saw a better way. And today, Alan's going to share with you that better way to ensure the success of your producers by leveraging marketing tools that are now available.
Wow, John, should you be telling your sad story to all these good people on the phone today? So John's story is kind of very funny to listen to because it is the traditional way. When I started my career, I was a bag carrier. I was a sales guy. And I also did a lot of canvassing. And people tossed the yellow pages to me, and I did a lot of work over the phones. And it's kind of funny because that's the way it was done 25 years ago. When I hear somebody saying that's the way we're doing it today, it's sort of almost amusing now. It's definitely not the most efficient way to do things. So there is a better way to, quote unquote, ensure the success of producers. And we are not happy with a failure rate. If you said to get 4 good producers, I have to hire 9, that's a bad ratio. So how can we do a better job to prop producers up to help them become more successful or statistically more successful? Well, it all starts with great prospect list generation, but I could argue that's the old way too. In the old days, if you did a good job with that, it would help ensure your success. But today, we can do e-marketing campaigns. We can leverage educational content, including web seminars, to establish an online rapport. Appointment setting calls should be warm calls, not cold calls. And, of course, we should take into account social media marketing, which we'll talk a little bit about at the end of our presentation. Now, in identifying the prospects, that's the first phase, the baseline. In identifying your prospects, it's important to create a high-quality suspect list. That's every single person that you could sell to who could you could either sell directly or there'd be a key influencer who would buy your products and services, your types of insurance. So if you're selling to businesses, if you're selling commercial insurance, for example, and you're selling to businesses that have between 10 employees and 150 employees. For the smaller ones, we might want the owner, the CEO, maybe the VP. But for the larger ones, we might want, the owner, the CFO, the VP of sales or marketing, and perhaps the VP of HR if you're doing benefits as well. So to make sure that you are honing prospects from suspects, you should use something, for example, like a prospect scorecard. Now, this doesn't take a lot of time, but it's really effective. It's a free tool. It was something that I designed early in my career. It goes across every type of business. It works as well for an insurance agent as it would for a financial planner, as it would for somebody selling benefits, as if you were selling commercial insurance. And we have this on our website. If you go to StartUpSelling.com, in our tools area of our website, there's a free version of this you can download. And it kind of works like this. You take your ideal attributes for your ideal prospect, which could also be the attributes of the last 10 people that you've sold to. And whether it's 8 of them or 7 or 9 or 10, you don't want 3 and you don't want 23, but you take your ideal 6 to 10 attributes and you give a point for each attribute. Size, location, target industry. For example, do you like a centralized company, a decentralized company? Do you do better if you're selling benefits if they're a VP of HR versus a director of benefits, and so on? And then you score each serious suspect you have, or you score your prospects. So now we're creating a system, a methodology, a simple methodology to ensure not only are you fishing in the right pond, but the likelihood that they'll buy. Below that is what we call a prospect qualifier. At Startup Selling, we use BUD. I also use that for another company, Budget Urgency Decision Maker. For your ideal prospects, you might have a simple qualifier. And that might be, start with a D, dissatisfaction with current broker, for example, or price sensitivity, or premium sensitivity. Create a little acronym. Now you know if they're in profile and how likely they are to buy. It's a great tool. So start with a great suspect list, have a methodology to determine suspects from prospects, and now we're going to talk about the type of prospect you want to sell to. Easy these days, if you have good quality sources, easy to assemble a top quality prospect list with associated emails. Let me say that again for emphasis. With associated emails. Whenever we are procuring or building a prospect list on behalf of an agent or an agency client, we're going to try to get as many quality emails as possible. You want to use viable vendors. You want to use quality vendors. If you can buy an email list for 2 cents an email, it's a suspect list. Suspect meaning it is a dubious list. So you want to get quality. Everything you do is going to start from this foundation. And of course, you want to scrub that list. So that means you don't want to have any emails that have info at, sales at, marketing at, vendor at. That gets you in spam trouble. It's inappropriate. You should not be asking somebody to opt in with those types of emails. And ultimately, you're now going to have this great prospect list and a simple method to qualify your prospects. So now let's talk about reaching out to these prospects. Now, thus far I haven't said once, pick up the yellow pages and dial the phone. Get in your car and drop off some information. Very, very important that we're as efficient as possible. Part of John's challenge in his story is he spent so much time in cars. Remember, if you're in a car, the likelihood that you're having a quality conversation with a prospect is not high. The likelihood that a prospect can reach you easily and conveniently, also challenging. If you're on a plane, even worse. So what we want to do is we want to reach out and engage the prospects in a variety of web-centric ways. Today, that means, just like we're doing right now, often ongoing educational dialogue, providing interesting topics to your prospective clients that don't have to be about insurance. So you can offer a business-related topic, if you're selling to businesses, where people say, wow, this insurance agency, XYZ insurance agency, really understands my business. They've provided me a tax planner for 2012 changes impacting small businesses. A free webinar. They provided me CSA changes to CSA regulations for my transportation firm, OSHA changes and challenges for construction firms, and so on. Compliance issues for benefits organization, what needs to be done for your next renewal to ensure compliance. And you're educating the prospects nowhere in this webinar, there's no place that I'm saying buy my stuff. It's let's talk about reaching out. Whether you insource this or outsource this is of secondary importance to us as opposed to bringing you information that you can act upon. And you want to convey this message quickly. So whatever it is that we're sending to you, the email subject line should be very short. One of the reasons Twitter's been so successful is it's so concise. Your message should be short. Do not use sell words. Do not use rush words in your message. Your email, by the way, should be a textual or multi-part mime email. What does that mean? Too often people send out these beautiful, graphically rich emails, and they think that's what the prospective client is receiving. It isn't. We're going to show you that on the next slide. You want to have business-centric emails. Simple, easy-to-read emails, clear, actionable call to action right in the middle of the page. And you want to govern your cadence. You want to limit the frequency of that email. So often I have agencies saying, let's email once a week or twice a week. And the answer to that is no. Absolutely not. Twice a month, 3 times a month is usually the recommended amount that you should be trying to touch your prospects unless it's a very unique reason. So everybody look at this screen, look at the screens right now. Everybody take a look at this. What are you sending? What are you getting? What are they getting? You've heard about WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. Well, look at what they see isn't necessarily what you say, what you see. So what they're getting is not necessarily what you're seeing. So I can't even read these. One is from actually Constant Contact. Somebody sent something from Constant Contact. Lovely. What is it? Who knows? What's the other one? Another one on the right here came from Amazon. Come on, Amazon. You don't know how to send a better email than that? And when you see these red X's, right-click to download pictures, all kinds of things happen, including having these emails show up in your Outlook junk mail folders. So not only do you have the challenge of getting through corporate spam filters, through filters like I use one of the filters I use for one of my clients that we monitor their emails on is actually filtered through SpamCop. So not only do you have to get through all those filters, you then have to get through Outlook filter settings. The more graphically rich, the more likely you're going to experience a challenge. So that's pretty interesting. Now, webinars. Webinar selling. Why webinar selling? A few reasons. If it's educational, if it's succinct, if you're talking to people about things they can use, if they value it, they will be more likely to value you. If they go to a webinar and they see, and I'm not trying to sell them anything, but Startup Selling is on the screen, subtly on the screen, they know we're sponsoring the webinar, they're going to know who we are. It helps our branding. It helps our name recognition. With your insurance agency, you want to do the same thing. So webinar topics that have worked well. Outlook backup best practices. I think we had 100 people attend that one for one of our clients. Hours of service regulations, changes in impact. That's the CSA regulations. I think we had 500 people attend one of those webinars. Learning about mandated W-2 reporting and PPACA updates. Those types of webinars for some of our clients, gosh, we've seen 50 to 700 people register for those webinars. How to integrate social media into your training initiatives. Very well attended, very popular webinar for larger clients. So, but listen, they're all educational. They're business topics. And a sample call to action, if you look at your screen, a sample call to action is as simple as a webinar link. Now why don't I use a link shortener, or why don't I use a hidden link for that? I can make that look really pretty, like click here to register. Well, the reason is less is more when it comes to email marketing. If you're masking the URL, that's faking it up by using a name with the underlying URL. In emails, spam filters don't like that. They say, are you trying to hide a bad link? So we try to make everything simple, overt, clear, not fancy, and it's been extremely successful for us and our clients. But of course, the webinars are really, and the e-marketing is really a means to establish an actual dialogue. So there's a few things that can happen. One, the person can respond, hey, I'd like to meet with you. Two, the person can click on a poll or a survey saying, yes, I would like to meet with you. Three, you may need to reach out to them, but now it's a warm call. So you'd call all the people who perhaps opened the email multiple times. Those are only HTMLs, by the way, that can be tracked. People who clicked through, people who registered, people who attended. If it's a white paper, it could be people who downloaded the white paper or a case study. It could be people who clicked through multiple times, who forwarded your email. All right. Now, however, we could say, hey, I'm following up on that webinar invitation. I see that you registered but weren't able to attend. You must have had some interest in the topic. Is there anything I can help you with? Now the producer is making a warm call. It's an easier call to make. You can leave a quality message on that call. You are not interrupting. It's not a form of interruption marketing. It's a follow-up call, or it's less of a form of interruption marketing. And it makes if you're using an appointment setter, it makes them much more effective. Now, all of that good stuff I just said, there are exceptions to the rule. If your agency is verticalized in any way, and you're strong in a vertical, transportation, construction, for example, private schools, vertical cold calling can work if it's done correctly. If you're using a really high quality caller, if they're working exclusively for you and not for a competitor, it can work. Here is a snapshot. Now, I'm not a lover of cold calls. It works only in specific instances. If you're selling benefits generically, horizontally, to groups of 50 to 150, just regular cold calling is a tough sell. However, if you're selling transportation insurance to trucking firms or construction insurance, for example, much better. So here's a case where somebody got 5 deals closed, 5 policies closed for $75,000 in commissions in the first 15 weeks. But they had deep expertise, a really great elevator pitch and value proposition, and and tremendous credibility. As a result, when those appointments were set up, the entire process worked. That can work for verticalized agencies. My preference, warm calls with associated e-marketing and webinars, or e-marketing with white papers, kind of you're softening up the marketplace. They know who you are, which is a great segue for where does social media marketing fall into all this stuff. So if you're not blown away by this slide of all the different types of off-page social media marketing, blogging, video, Pinterest, Google+, Facebook, there's a million things you can do now with social media marketing. Our advice to agents, to producers, to agency owners, our advice is to pick your spots and to start with blogging, because blogging can be used in a lot of ways. As a matter of fact, we're going to be running a webinar on behalf of a broker who's selling to agents coming up, and we do that. We speak on a variety of these topics, and we're going to be the speaker for that webinar, and we provided 3 links for them for fulfillment. After all, we're not going to send it in snail mail. We're not going to send a glossy brochure in the mail today. And the 3 links were blogs that we had written about SEO, because we have a tremendous amount of content that's valuable. Those blogs were turned into e-zines, online articles. They were tweeted. They were posted into LinkedIn. We Google Plus them. So we put them into Facebook. So think about that for extending the reach of your producers. A successful social media marketing campaign, a well-orchestrated campaign with your agency and them, or if you're independent, for you, is very helpful in extending that reach and extending the email marketing that we talked about earlier. So I know I've thrown a lot at you, but again, this is great stuff for you not to be John Scranton of yesteryear, for you to be much more efficient, to ensure the producer's success. And with that, John's going to talk a little bit about where sources of leads should come from.
Thank you, Alan. So today we wanted to bring the presentation full circle by talking about where prospects came from in the old way and where prospects come from today using the better way that Alan discussed. So in the story that I told about my days as an agent, I really only had the two smaller pieces of the pie to the left to work with here. The cold calling and internally generated leads, and then referrals and cross-sales that I could earn as well. But today, we've expanded our universe, expanded the top of our sales funnel dramatically, and that's the same thing that we try to do for our clients by deploying e-marketing and web seminar campaigns, social media, and SEO. We've increased the size of the pie. We still use referrals. We still cold call on specific occasions like Alan mentioned, and we certainly cross-sell, but those are only small portions of our business because we're leveraging these new, better ways to grow our business quickly and effectively. So with that, we're going to move into our Q&A. We have many questions that have come in today. While we're running the Q&A, in just a moment, I'm going to open up a poll to give everyone that attended today the opportunity to request a complimentary marketing and lead gen review or an insurance agency marketing ebook that we have, or for information on how to order our sales tips book, Sell More and Work Less, that we mentioned earlier on. So with that, Alan, the first question that came in asks about the length of webinars. It says, many companies run 60 to 90-minute webinars. Why do you recommend shorter webinars?
They drive me crazy when they run 60 to 90-minute webinars. It's absolute, unless there's a very, very specific reason, it's crazy. First of all, executives are busy. You people are busy. Just taking 20, 25 minutes out of your day is onerous enough, even if it's of value to you. Short, educational web seminars with knowledge nuggets are the way to go. Too often on these 60-minute webinars, the first 5 to 10 minutes are wasted on trying to warm up the audience, which is crazy. I went to one the other day by a reputable e-marketing platform provider, and I counted in the first 8 minutes of the webinar, they were chatting. They were talking about background and information. We have one slide, 30 seconds tops. So shorter is better. Be respectful of your audience. Let them give them something. Let them leave with something of value and get on with their day.
Thank you, Alan. The next question that came in, someone has asked, why can't I send email campaigns from Outlook?
Oh, great question. Great question. So you can send email campaigns from Outlook, but Outlook does limit it. I think you can get 50 per on a copy, for example. You could also do a merge with Outlook, but there's a lot of issues with that. The first and the biggest one is you're not following CAN spam regulations. CAN spam says there has to be an easy opt-out, which should be an automated opt-out, by the way. Outlook does not do that. The second thing is you're using your primary domain to send emails on. You know, it's not difficult to get blacklisted with a few people complaining about you these days. So do you want to jeopardize your campaign by sending out 500 or 1,000 emails from Outlook? The third thing is there's so much better ways with tracking, automated opt-out, automated bounce control, so many things, and it's so inexpensive to do or very easy to outsource. So for crying out loud, if you want to do e-marketing on yourself, please use, Constant Contact, iContact, any of the basic programs, Exact Target, and so on. Don't use Outlook. And if you are using Outlook, I'd recommend that you consider using an alternate domain name and having a method for easy opt-out to ensure that you're both following CAN spam regulations and that you will not get your domain, your primary domain, blacklisted or spoofed. I don't know if people have heard about this, but what happens is if somebody gets your email address, your actual email address, they can use it and spoof emails, so all of a sudden it looks like you're having advertisements from Viagra coming from your actual email address, which is an unhappy moment. It has happened to some people that I know, and they are in the future will take precautions that it doesn't.
That is an unhappy moment. The next question that came in, I'll handle. Someone asked if we could review where to go to get the prospect scorecard, and Alan mentioned you can go to our website, StartUpSelling.com, under Sales Tools. You can also go to prospectscorecard.com, and there's a complimentary Excel version which you can download, and also an iPhone app version, which I think costs something like $1.99 at the iTunes store, and there's a link there as well. We have time for one or two quick questions. Someone else has asked, Alan, where should my commercial producers focus when working on social media?
Okay, and that's a great question. I can't do it justice in a 60-second answer, but if you are commercial-centric, you should be focusing on LinkedIn. Facebook is now trying to do more with businesses, including e-commerce, but LinkedIn is the Facebook of business. There's 150 million members. There's a lot of great stuff you can do. You can connect. John and I, for example, are probably approaching 1,000 contacts. You can create a group, our insurance agency lead generation group, which if you're not a member you should join, is approaching 2,000 members. You should have a profile that's searchable. You can find people to speak to. It's free or very inexpensive. You can post your blog. It's helpful to your SEO. So LinkedIn is the place that you should focus. Then, of course, there's no reason if you're on LinkedIn that you wouldn't tweet what you're doing on LinkedIn. You wouldn't tweet your blog. It's a no-brainer. And social bookmark it with Stumble Upon, for example. So that's my short answer to that good question.
Thank you. And Alan, if you can, roll over to the last slide. And the last question that we'll have time for today, I'll answer. Several people asked about the PowerPoint presentation. If anybody wants to call or email me, I would be happy to provide you with a PDF version of the presentation or answer any questions that you have. With that, today's web seminar is